My guest today took a trip to where we will all have to go one day, but she got the opportunity to return and tell it all. Today on the Story Before the Glory, my guest, Linda Patton, experienced healing in a way we can only say it must have been divine or a miracle. Welcome, Linda.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here, Runke.
Let's start off with your accent, Linda. Are you American?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Tell us a bit about yourself. Did you move from America down here?
Well, I was raised all over the world, actually.
Oh, okay.
My dad was in the military. We lived in Italy. We lived in Japan. We lived in Hawaii. You know,
So
with
I'm gonna
all.
call you international.
Yeah,
woman
well,
then.
that's it. So I'm more international, but I was actually born in America. But I can't seem to get rid of this accent.
Yeah, well, it's good then. And you've lived here for quite a while, haven't you?
I've lived here over 20 years. I'm
wow.
more like 27 now.
Okay.
In the UK. I came here for a 2-week outreach team, and I'm still here.
Wow, really? So you came with did you come with a group of people?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
I was based in Amsterdam, Holland at that time.
Right.
And they needed a team to come over to help start a church.
Okay.
And so I decided I'd come on the team, and God provided the money at the last minute, and here I am. I came over, and we did outreach on the streets and in White City.
Oh, wow, okay.
And knocking on doors and doing that type of thing.
Right, okay. So have you always been in ministry?
No.
Okay.
If you ask my family, they would say they were Protestant. But I can count on one hand how many times I actually went to church when I was a child.
Okay.
And so it wasn't really until after I got born again that my mother got born again just before she died, you know, before I became a Christian.
Okay, so you've not always been in ministry.
No.
2004, something happened to you.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about what happened to you in 2004?
Well, I went into the hospital for what was termed a very minor operation. It would be about 2 hours and 2 to 4 days stay in the hospital. And it would be keyhole surgery, going in from the back and taking the hernia out and repairing it.
Okay, so was it an hernia operation?
Yes, it was. It was a hernia operation.
Right. Okay.
And my daughter and my granddaughter came over from America because I would have to have someone with me for a few days after I
the surgery.
got released from the hospital.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and about 3 days into my stay in the hospital after the surgery, they started letting me drink water and other things, and I asked for a Dr. Pepper, you know.
All right, Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, that's what did
wow.
it. No, actually.
Okay.
But I started drinking. Well, they weren't aware at the time that there was a hole in my esophagus. And so everything that I was drinking was going into my chest cavity. Wow. And my daughter and granddaughter were sitting there, and I was sitting on the bed right across from them. They were sitting in the chairs, and I knew I was going to pass out. And I think that's probably the closest thing I know about possibly dying, and you just know that you're going, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I said to my daughter, Lisa, you know, I'm going to pass out. And she came and sat beside me, and I fell into her arms. And did
you have a feeling as if life was
draining away from me? Right. It was almost like it was draining away, and I could just feel it, you know. And so I collapsed into my daughter's arms, and the crash team came and revived me and put me on a ventilator because I couldn't breathe on my own. And I stayed that way in intensive care for months. But for months, several months actually. And the thing about it is my daughter and my granddaughter had to go back to America not knowing if they would ever see me alive again. And
that was where it all started from.
That's the way it started.
Right. So after you collapsed and they put you back into bed, you were in intensive care. So were you part of a church? What was the kind of support you were getting?
Well, yes, a lot of my friends within the church. I was going to New Covenant Church at the time,
Right, okay.
and my friends and pastor and Sister Kate and Paul and a lot of different friends would come and pray for me.
Okay.
And at times I was unconscious. And the thing about it is, they put me in an induced coma as well. And many times when, well, all the time,
Yeah.
people can hear, but they can't respond. And so I could see Pastor Femi and Sister Tinu standing by my bed, and I would want to reach out.
Could you move any part of your body? You
Not
couldn't, really?
well, yeah, so somewhat, but I couldn't respond. I couldn't talk. And then the unthinkable happened, is that they did a tracheotomy.
Right.
And so I wasn't able to talk, and that's where they go in and they dislocate your voice box.
Right.
So I was left to, picking up this chart
Right.
and pointing to words or letters to spell out something, or symbols. And so it was really hard to communicate. And I was in intensive care, and there was this phlegm that would come up
Right.
into my throat, and it was hard to deal with. I thought I was choking. I had this choking feeling.
Does it not just make you appreciate the little things we take for granted? The ability to be able to just talk.
Yes.
The ability to be able to get up and move things. And I'm just trying to imagine, so a simple thing as saying you wanted to go into the toilet, you had to point at something to
Yes.
indicate that you needed to go into the toilet or to get up.
Well, I wasn't able to get up at that point.
Probably
At that
had some-
point, I wasn't able to walk, talk, eat, or drink. I wasn't even allowed water. And now and again, they would humor me and give me a few ice chips, to suck on. But I mean, how long does that last in your mouth? And my mouth was so dry many times, and I felt a heaviness, and they would put me up out of the bed into a chair. They would literally have to hoist me up and set me in the chair because I wasn't able to do it on my own.
Just to move anything?
No.
Okay. So from the support you got from the church, to me that just shows, the fact that you were in a church that really helped you in terms of having people to support you, because you'll be amazed the amount of people that are in hospitals that actually they don't necessarily have any family here,
Yeah.
because your family was in America. Also, they had to go back, so that meant you could very easily have been there on your own without any.
I
form of
was on my
support,
own,
right?
except for my church family.
Right. Amazing.
And actually, later on, one of my surgeons said to me, he says, it had to have been the prayers that brought you through.
Excellent.
And he says, who are you going to give credit to this, me or him? And he looked up. And I said, of course, both of you, because you're the most prayed after surgeon there is.
Exactly, because all the prayers it would have received.
That's right.
But that meant...
But it actually progressed, where I moved away from that hospital because they couldn't do any more for me.
Right.
In fact, I have a friend who's a nurse, and she said they were giving me palliative care. Okay. And they actually told one of my pastor friends, she's not going to make it. But here I am.
Yeah, obviously. So they did say to you that you were not going to make it?
They told my family that. They didn't tell me that.
All right, okay.
But I overheard, I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Even though I couldn't respond many times, I knew what was going on. Okay. And what was so wonderful is my daughter came over every 6 weeks to be with me. And the Lord provided for all of that. It was just fabulous.
That's true, because again, we have to consider provision, isn't it? Because you would have needed money, expenses, you weren't able to work. So when you moved from the hospital, then you moved somewhere else. Where did you move to? Because you said you had to move into another form of care. Because I'm sure you weren't able to go back home.
I was in the original hospital, and then I was moved to another one where they put Humpty Dumpty back together again, basically. And then as I began to progress, they gave me back my voice, which I was fine, but I had to learn to speak over again. And that was very hard, actually. It was very tiring, would you believe? And from there, they gave me physical therapy, so I learned to walk. And I was so afraid. You don't realize when you get up that you have to lean forward to get up. And when I leaned forward to get up, I felt like I was going to fall, so I was afraid.
Right.
But one day I kept praying, and when they would hoist me out of the bed and put me in the chair, I would see down on the street that I used to walk on, and I would say, one day I'm going to walk on that street again. Every time I'd say, one day I'm going to walk on that street. And then one morning I woke up, and I just had it in me. I slid off of the bed, stood on my feet, and began to walk.
Wow. So you didn't need any support the first time?
At that point in time. And I started taking 1 or 2 steps, and then I was taking 10 steps, because they said I needed to go to a rehab center. They had done all they could do.
Right.
I was still being fed through a tube in my stomach.
So you weren't still eating the normal way?
I was still not eating.
How many months did this go for?
About 9 months. Yeah. I didn't eat a thing. It's the longest fast in history.
It must have been. 9
months. 9 months I didn't eat anything. From time to time they'd let me have something to drink.
It must have been like you were just existing for those 9 months and not really leaving.
That's it. And that's why at a moment of weakness in my faith, I just wanted to go and be with the Lord, you know, because I believed in God, you know. And I wanted to go be with the Lord, so I pointed to the chart, the skull, which was a symbol of death.
Yes, wow.
And the doctor knew exactly what I was trying to convey. And she said, no, we can't do that.
God bless them for not letting you go.
Yeah, thank goodness, you know, because it wasn't that I wanted to commit suicide. I just wanted to be out of my situation and with the Lord if I wasn't going to get any better. And they were saying I wasn't going to get any better.